Now, how do you measure PE distortion? Is there a unit of measure? Is it a 0 to 100, or is it a percentage of distortion versus original sound?
Well, the method of measuring really is by ear right now, because we don't really have a test protocol and we don't have a test instrument. This is in spite of the fact that I've attempted through approaching companies like Audio Precision and Klippel in Germany, and you and I have talked a little bit about trying to get Prism interested, but to no avail up to this point.
So one would assume then, if the measurement is mostly subjective, that it's not a subtle measurement. It's not a subtle effect, that it must be a very dramatic sound.
It can be anywhere from subtle to overwhelming. And I would say it's what I consider to be the explanation for, if you ask the question either of yourself or philosophically in the business, why good sound sometime but not all the time? If somebody says, oh no, it's good sound all the time, there's never a problem, then they just haven't really looked at the real world and how things are working. Why good sound sometime and not all the time? Well, when it is good, of course it's not just the PE distortion, there's other things that are involved in sound, but this phenomenon, I believe, when it's kept under control, gives you a better possibility of having good, certainly having accurate sound. Now, like all distortions, you can get an incarnation of it that I like that, The delay times and the bandwidth of the delay times are enough that, this is a fullness. It literally creates additional reverberation. A product that we're both familiar with, and most people in the industry are familiar with, which when I was first exposed to it, frankly, I didn't understand what to make of it. Sometimes when I mention this to people, I still get people, it's obvious that they really don't understand, but if you listen to a pair of NS10s, which is, everybody knows about NS10s, they're a very successful product, but I can remember, Val Garay telling me that he discovered the NS10, that Yamaha didn't know that it could be a professional monitor, blah, blah, blah. And, certainly, so I got them and I had them in my lab and, listened to them and compared to our product. Well, when you compare a Westlake to the NS10, you immediately go, well, where did all that reverb come from? Where is that reverb? Now, is it possible that if you look at the Westlake, you say, it knows how to subtract the reverb? Well, of course, we mechanically dampen the product, and so there's superficially a idea that, well, is it? But then you ask yourself the question: can just the mechanical dampening in the product cause that big of a difference? Because it's a little tiny box, and yet the reverb sounds big. Well, I think that's probably, if we dig inside of that and really, if we had test equipment to really look at the PE distortion, that I think we would come up with that PE distortion in that Yamaha NS10 just happens to manifest itself in a way that we like it. I equate it to, it wasn't too long in the studio business that I kind of observed that, okay, if an engineer is a newbie, in the business, one thing that he needs to learn really fast is that, when the producers, is working with the singer and they're in the control room and they want to solo the vocal, you pretty much don't want to solo it without the echo syn, because they're not going to like the
dry vocal.
The dry vocal, right. And so, to me, this NS10 thing is sort of analogous to that we don't like our sound of our recording without the additional reverb. And of course, if you can get it by just plugging the signal into this box, you don't have to worry about any settings or this or that. So, anyway, that's just, to me, an example of how the PE distortion can actually be desirable. Like any distortion, if you say, that's my sound, it's your sound.